You're listening to One Family, What's God Doing? Where we explore what God's doing in YWAM locations throughout Virginia. We can't wait for you to find out what God's doing today. All right, so welcome back to One Family, What's God Doing? And I'm glad to have Jesse back on the mic again. So, Jesse, it's good to see you. And I have a question for you, man. What's God been doing in Richmond?
Well, last time we talked about one of the things that God was doing was he was redeeming difficult situations and creating opportunities for ministry. And I have to say, the things that I've been really noticing this month as well is just along those same lines, that God is taking things that are hard and he's using them to show us opportunities to step in, to bring his heart, to bring his spirit, and to get involved. And I'll just list a couple of examples. Right after we recorded the last podcast, we had another robbery. This time, it was in a different place, different people. We have a little outreach center in our business district where our beloved Miss Thelma invites people in off the streets for tea and coffee and snacks and Bible studies and things like this. And Miss Thelma is so beloved in this community, and everyone knows her. And she's been so good to this area, but she got robbed. The pop-in, as we call it, was absolutely ransacked. Everything of value was stolen, and even the snacks and stuff was just ridiculous. And many of her regulars, as she calls them, the people who come in frequently to get snacks and to talk, to share their troubles, who attend the Bible studies, they came quickly to her defense. Who did this? I can't believe someone did this. We're going to find them for you, Miss Thelma. Anyways, that was a challenge going, I can't believe someone robbed Miss Thelma. It was just an indicator that things are tough. Crime is increasing. But it also let us know how much she meant to the lives of the people she had been ministering to in the pop-in. So we're very proud of what she's doing over there. So that was one thing. Another thing that happened was an absolute tragedy, but that God is redeeming. And I don't say that lightly. This is a very difficult situation. But we talked about how some kids from a neighboring community had robbed one of our houses, and we started doing outreach with them. Shortly after that, we found out that a young child had taken his own life in that community, and very young. And it was an absolute tragedy, just terrible, terrible thing. And we understood the level of hopelessness that people can have. But the good thing that has come out of that is that it really lit a fire under us to do more outreach, to get more involved. And the Lord had already been speaking to us about getting involved, and we had already gotten a little involved, but we got more involved. And it gave us an open door to go down there that first night and do a prayer time. We just invited everyone from the community to join us for prayer. We gathered on the basketball court and prayed for the community, preached the gospel, had lots of one-on-one conversations with people. And we've been going back since on Thursday nights to do outreach and trying to bring some food, some kind of maybe some worship, the gospel. And we're looking forward to being able to fulfill what we felt the Lord was laying on our heart when we first felt the call to get involved there, is that one day we could build an outreach center right adjacent to this property, and a place where kids can be safe, where they can have trauma counseling, where they can have help with literacy and their school and their homework, things like that. So the Lord has used tragedy to actually stir us up and to add fuel to the fire, to act and to get involved. I understand just so clearly that God is involved, and that he doesn't want to give up on these people. He wants to come and bring rescue. So that's another thing that God's doing. The last thing that I'll say that God is doing is he's really moving through our Monday night missions nights. We've been having worship and missions night for a while now, maybe about a year or so. And this past Monday was just absolutely incredible. We had a missionary from Tajikistan who had served in areas from Russia to Afghanistan and many other surrounding countries. And he shared some testimonies from the field that absolutely rocked me to my core. Stories of radically sharing the gospel, stories of martyrdom, of people who have absolutely laid their lives on the line so that Jesus' name would be proclaimed and people could know him in some of the hardest and darkest areas of our world. And we're doing this every Monday, and we're having missionaries come and share. And the idea is that we would be able to hear what God is doing, and it would stir us and fill us with strength and motivation to get involved in the nations. So it's doing that. And I can't recommend Monday night worship and missions enough. It's been such a great time. So if I had to kind of summarize this past month, what am I seeing God doing? He's redeeming more tragic and broken situations to bring an increase of his love, an increase of his presence in ministry. And he's really using our commitment to worship and sharing missions testimonies to stir hearts into action and getting involved to advance the Great Commission.
Yeah, that's so good. I've got a theological question for you. And this is something you could probably teach a week-long class on. But, you talked about how you had already experienced the hardship of a robbery, and then you seek God through and like, all right, we're starting this new outreach. And then suddenly there's another robbery. And then there's the loss of this child. And then there's, you're having speakers coming in talking about martyrdom and hardship. And so, what's one thing you've learned about how to persevere when hardship just keeps on hitting?
Mm. Well, the Lord is really giving me a lot of conviction about what it really means to lay your life down for Jesus, and that Jesus sometimes calls us to hardship. And I've been going through almost daily thinking about the stories I've heard, thinking about the things I've seen, thinking about what it's going to take to actually make a long-term difference in the lives of these kids in the community. And knowing with the level of violence that you really have to lay down your life. And whether it's just convenience and you lay down your evenings and your time or your reputation, you're putting yourself out there trying to raise funds for a project or something like that. Or actually maybe laying down your life. And this is weird, but I had a dream a few years ago where I was in Churchill and I was sharing the gospel, and I was confronted. Actually, I was like caught in the middle of a gun battle, and there were bullets flying around, and I was trying to take cover under an SUV, and I got pulled out from under the SUV, and I got pulled in front of these gang members, and they gave a gun to a young kid and told him, this is how you prove yourself. You got to kill this guy. And in the dream, I'm like doing spiritual warfare and just praying and stuff. And I don't even know how it turned out. I think I woke up eventually, but I woke from that dream going, what if I had to lay my life down even in this city? That's not something we think about in the United States much. Oh yeah, maybe in other countries people have to lay their life down. But I've actually been wrestling with that here. And I've been having to have that conversation with the Lord where I say, okay, God, you can have it. If that's what it takes, that you can have it. And I think all of us need to be in that place where we're willing to go through the hardship. We're willing to sacrifice so that he would receive glory and so that he can accomplish his plans. And it's easy to look at someone else's story of martyrdom or what they laid down so that God would be glorified. It's a lot harder to do that with our own life.
Yeah, man, that's good. That's good. Well, in all that's happening, how can others journey with you all in what God's doing?
Well, I have kind of three things that I've thought of ways people can get involved. Number one, we need prayer because the Lord is starting to release vision about how we can do outreach in this community to make a long-term change. But we need prayer. It's big stuff. It's like far bigger than anything I've ever done. I don't know if I have the capacity to do a large-scale project that will cost millions of dollars and take decades of investment, recruiting lots of missionaries and therapists and educators and developing curriculum and so many things. So I need prayer. I feel like God is calling me to something that's bigger than anything I've ever come close to attempting. And it's not just me, our whole team. We're stretched pretty thin. We're doing a lot of stuff already. We need increased personnel and capacity to do more than what we're currently sustaining. And then number two, I shared about Miss T's pop-in, where Miss Thelma has the little outreach center that we have right down here in the business district. They're always needing volunteers, people who can come Monday through Friday 10 to 12 and 2 to 4, there's people, just hurting, broken people who need the gospel, who need Jesus, who need prayer, and people struggling with addiction and deep poverty and a lot of despair. It's a great place. If you're interested in getting involved with someone and making a difference in someone's life, showing them value, you could get involved with the Pop-In, and we'd love it if you do that. And then lastly, I mentioned our missions night. I think people can come get fired up and inspired to bring the gospel to the nations by joining us for worship and missions night. We've been having it in the tent while the weather's been nice, and it's at 6:00 on Monday nights. It's just a fantastic time. We have snacks afterwards. So I would invite anyone who's available in the Richmond area, come down to the YWAM campus on Monday nights and join us 6 to about 7:30 or so. And just allow your faith to be stirred with the stories of what God is doing in the nations. And I know that if more people hear what God is doing, more people see the example of missionaries laying down their lives for the gospel, it helps all of us grow in that capacity to surrender everything for God's glory ourselves. So that would be my invitation. Pray for us, pray for the ministry, get involved with one of the ministries like the Pop-In, and come to missions night on Monday nights.
And I'll interject and add that somebody could be hearing the invitation to go to Miss T's Pop-In and feel intimidated. Like, I don't know how to talk to somebody who's wrestling with addiction, or I don't know. And what I wanted to add to that is it's as simple as sitting down and having a conversation. Yeah. And really all you need is willingness, because God can provide the words, but don't worry about feeling like you need a certain skill set. You just need to be someone who's willing to have a conversation, and God can do the rest. So,
yeah, for sure.
Well, as we close, what's a verse that God's been putting on your heart?
Well, as I think about what we've been going through, I'm reflecting on a verse that maybe some of us think is a little cliche, and we've said it maybe too many times, but it's Romans 8:28, that in all things God works together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Because he does. He takes every tragedy, every hard thing, and has a redemptive purpose. And we just see it again and again. So I stand on that, and the next time you encounter that big hard thing, you just go, oh, God, where are you working? You're going to do something in this crisis.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for you and everyone in Richmond who are persevering through hardship, and for that willingness to trust God in that. And thank you for sharing stories today. And I want to thank all of you for listening, and not just for listening, but for walking with us as we together, as one family, explore what it means to know God and make him known.
If you'd like to learn more about what God's doing in Virginia, visit us at ywamva.org and join us next week for more stories of God at work.